Hello. Auto cue.
Tumejipanga. So ambia nani sisi we are ready.
Tough job.
Sana.
How do you look at? How do you like my shoes? Do you need to clean?
You have taken the whole video. Mngekatia hapa. Ona acha mkwasa, acha wakatie tu hapa.
You know.
Wakatia tu hapa msichukue wakati.
Because but we are from the field.
We are from the field. Haina shida, tumepanda miti.
In fact, I don't mind.
Haina shida.
I can even talk about my shoes.
Yeah. So itako masi anieleze vitu zenye amepanga on air. Masi niambie running order vile umepanga kwa server. What is it? Niandikie tu nilete.
No. Shoes. Tell the whole story.
Si ndio? Umepanda miti. Umecheza mpira. Pigo kwa mguu. Yote ni sawa kabisa. Tuwapatie link. Acha nione mwasi. Nikutumie link kupatia hawa. Kijana
Do you have a serviette? Or just anything, even you leave it as toilet tissue.
watazamaji wetu katika mitandao ya kijamii, basi kidogo kabisa tutakuwa tunaungana na our production live crew team, na tuko na mgeni mmeshamuona amekaa hapa, na bila shaka mnamuona katika social media, YouTube Tandao TV Kenya, Facebook Tandao TV Kenya, vile vile Robert Wanyonyi katika YouTube, na vile vile kwenye Google Play Store. Asante sana watazamaji wetu ambao mko katika mataifa ya kigeni for the support, na mlikuwa mmesema mtasalimia sana PS akiwasili hapa, manake wengi mmekuwa mnasema mnapenda the way he puts things as they are. Kwa hivyo ako hapa kuhakikisha kwamba atakuwa anawapatia yale ambayo mlikuwa mnauliza, na vile vile tutakuwa tunapata a list of events ambazo amefanya siku ya leo. Mkiangalia vizuri sana amechoka kabisa, amefanya shughuli mingi, panda miti, amecheza mpira, sasa ndio tukamleta studio. Kwa hivyo PS unaweza salimia watu wetu katika mitandao ya kijamii wakiwa all over the world watching you. Kamera yako ni hiyo.
I send greetings to all of
Kaweka
you.
hapa.
I send greetings to all of you within and outside the country. We have a duty to develop and love our country. With you, I'll enjoy to get some input from us.
Naam, nimeambiwa na programming crew kwamba tuko tayari, tuko hewani katika runinga ya Tandao TV Kenya, na Chandra na Ndini, poleni sana. Tunajua kwamba kipindi itaendelea kesho, lakini tulikuwa tumeshawa notify kutoka wiki ilipoanza kwamba kutakuwa na mgeni hapa. Kwa hivyo mgeni akikuja, at least mwenyeji unatengeneza nyumba kidogo. Kwa hivyo mtatulia kidogo, Chandra na Ndini fans. Kesho mtapata episode ya leo vile ilivyokuwa. Na kabla kuanza, bwana PS, timu yako ya ICT wanaomba kwamba nimekutumia link katika WhatsApp, wanaomba uwatumie link ya interview, wamengoja hapo. Kwa hivyo utashika tu simu hata tukiwa hapa upate kuwaforwardia hiyo link ambayo nimepata kukutumia. Watazamaji wetu wa runinga Tandao TV Kenya, na wale ambao mnatujoin kupitia kwa mtandao wetu ama website yetu ambayo ni www.tandaomedia.co.ke, na wengine ambao mnatujoin kupitia kwa app yetu, our dedicated app on Google Play Store, that is Tandao Extra app. All over the world mliko, tunasema karibuni sana katika mahojiano haya. Natumai umepata hiyo link.
Nimepata.
Umewatumia?
Natumia waangalie, na haijaingia lakini
ndio hiyo nimepeana, na tunafanya vitu live. Kwa hivyo dada Florence, unaweza organize hiyo link wapate kupewa. Unaweza enda katika YouTube, ambao mnatazama YouTube, unaenda kwa Robert Wanyonyi on YouTube ama Tandao TV Kenya on YouTube, alafu wapatie link ili wapate kushare out, na bila shaka tunataka tukue live in so many programs na platforms. Watazamaji karibuni, na vile ambavyo nilipata kuarifu mapema, tutakuwa na mgeni, na ndio huyu amefika katika studio, ambaye ni Principal Secretary katika Wizara ya Mawasiliano, ambaye ni PS, ambaye wa ICT ama Broadcasting and Telecommunications, ambaye ni Mheshimiwa Profesa Edward Waswa Kisiang'ani. Karibuni katika studio.
Asante sana.
Karibuni sana Profesa.
Yes.
Na bila shaka imekuwa siku ya shughuli mingi sana. Tumekuwa na shughuli mingi sana mtazamaji, na iwapo huko kini utakuwa unaona hapo katika screen vile ambavyo tulianza, manake sana, na tulianzia kule Maraka Ward kule Webuye ambapo alipeana, na vile vile tumekuwa katika eneo baada ya Maraka Ward tumekuwa pale, na tukakuja eneo la Maeni Primary School. Vile vile support kwa timu mbili, Enombela na vile vile Kamusinde Classic, ambao wamepata mpira ya kucheza, mpira mizuri sana ya FIFA size 4 ambayo wamepata hapo, na vile vile akawapatia support na motisha tu, akiwa ni mwanachelisa, bila shaka anapeana naongea nao. Tumetoka hapo mtazamaji, tukakuja hadi katika ambapo Kuyo Primary School tulipata kupeana mipira, na PS alipata kupeana mipira kwa timu ya Kuyo FC. Timu ya Kuyo FC ilipata mipira, na vile vile Edward Waswa Kisiang'ani. Tumemalizia katika shule ya Bungoma Boys High School, ambapo hapo ndipo training ground ya shauri tu na bwana PS Edward Kisiang'ani. Na huyu ni mtu vile vile, siku ikiwa ni ya mazingira, pia amepanda miti, amepanda shughuli ya last year. Unaweza ona katika picha katika screen yako, alikuwa kule Kisii akipanda miti na mheshimiwa gavana Simba Arati. Kwa hivyo mheshimiwa, mbona uko na passion sana na michezo, uko na passion na conservation ya environment, na ni kwa nini, msukumo wako ni gani?
Msukumo wangu mimi ni mtu wa mkono wa rais. Na pia nadhani nilikuwa na walimu wazuri shuleni, walitufundisha kuhifadhi mazingira. Na rais anaamini anaamini kwamba watu wa Kenya wanahitaji kuhifadhi mazingira kwa sababu umeona athari ambazo zinatokana na kuharibu mazingira zimedhuru dunia nzima. Sasa kwa hivyo niko na motisha upande mbili. Pande ya kwanza ni kwamba walimu wetu walitufundisha shuleni kwamba lazima tupande miti, tuhifadhi mazingira. Agenda ya rais pia ni ya kuzingatia kuhifadhi mazingira. Sasa yote mbili ikiunganisha ya kuweza kuhifadhi mazingira, ndio umeniona huko Kisii, umeniona huko Nandi, nikishughulikia mambo ya mazingira.
Na kuhusu vijana, nimeona you have such a passion with our youth. You have been talking to them, you have been advising, you have been motivating them as well and giving them sports equipment. You have given out football balls mingi sana, zaidi ya 200 peke yake. Siku ya leo umepeana mipira mingi sana. Nini msukumo ya kuhakikisha kwamba vijana wanapata hizo pembejeo?
You know, Robert, this country is nothing without the youth. It is totally nothing. The country cannot survive on the retired people. The wealth of this country lies in its young people. They are energetic, they are innovative, they are very creative. So these young people need to be encouraged. If we can't invest in young people, we have no future in this country. So that's why you see, I'm very excited when I work with young people. I want them to build talent. At 50 years, 60 years, you can't build talent. But people 20 years, 25 years can build talent. They can build talent in ICT. They can build talent in sports. They can build talent in many other aspects. And those talents can be turned into money because we can sell their talent to the rest of the world, and you never know. That would be the difference between our budget deficit and our wealth. So really, we must invest in young people. So I've been very motivated by that. The second thing that makes me also very, very motivated and excited about young people is the president. There's no time I have listened to the president and he doesn't talk about young people. He thinks that he has even told us that the biggest investment in this country is in these young people. So he believes that the people who will change Kenya, Kenya cannot be the same as these young people. Some of us who are a bit advanced in age, we have been used to certain stereotypes. But if you look at the young people we have around, they are willing to experiment. They don't think about tribe. They think about issues. So if we invest in them, and that will change our country very, very drastically. So that motivation is very important. And plus the fact that I also have young people in my house. I have kids who are age mates of the young people you see around here. These kids, we invested in them in education by giving them an education. And so they join others to transform the world. It's not just about transforming a small place like where we are here. Transforming Kenya, transforming Africa. These young people, that is the team that will make Kenya be respected, Africa be respected. So that's why young people are very close to my heart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Naam, swali zuri sana ambalo profesa umepata kujibu. Tukiendelea Florence, I think nimekutumia link upate kupeana kwa wale ambao wanataka kufuatilia mahojiano haya, basi wapate kufuatilia, na vile vile mnaweza kupata mahojiano haya kupitia kwa mtandao wetu, app yetu ambaye ni Tandao Extra on Google Play Store. Bila shaka utaweza kufuatilia mahojiano haya moja kwa moja na profesa, na vile vile hata katika website yetu ambaye ni www.tandaomedia.co.ke, yote utakuwa unatupata live. Basi tukiendelea, baada ya mtazamaji kupata kuona tu profesa akiongea, ukaona picha ambazo, shughuli ambazo amepata kutekeleza, and also explaining his passion for the environment, yote mmepata kujua his passion for sports na young people, ameweza kuelezea. Profesa, ningependa urudilie swala moja ambalo umekuwa unawadvise wale vijana hivi leo nikisikia. Unawaambia nini vijana sasa, tukiwa live katika runinga, katika mahojiano now for the wider audience? What can you tell our youth, especially you have been talking about the Gen Zs?
But I can summarize them this way. The young people of this country should even be the first ones to understand the dangers of using materials from internet and social media without analyzing. Some of them admitted today that they have been scandalized by their colleagues through misinformation. So the information they hear about government, some of the allegations made about people in government, some of the things said about our president are not true. And I advise them that if they have any issues that they need clarification about, they can call me. You remember I gave them my number.
Yeah, you've been giving
and I told them,
out,
let them call me. I'll explain certain things for them. As a PS, I understand what is happening in government. So the young people, they must use social media analytically without necessarily taking and swallowing everything, because they will also be victims of the same misinformation and disinformation. And this is a problem across the world. The second thing I told young people to do is to respect people who are in leadership. You know, indiscriminately, even in our own counties, we have leaders. The counties have leaders. They have MCS. They have everybody. These guys who are voted in should be respected, because these young people will also soon become leaders. They will be ministers, they will be governors, they will be ministers. So when they are in that kind of position, we expect that the entire republic respects them. So these young people must be respected when they become leaders. But if they don't respect the ones they found there, then how do they expect to earn respect when they become leaders? We will have a chaotic world. And Robert, that's the advice. But I also advise them against taking drugs. I advise the young people against taking alcohol. But I encourage them to build talent around sports. And I also told them to listen to the president very carefully, because he believes in them. They are very lucky they have a president who believes in them. The president wants to empower them, and wants to empower them through the 5 pillars. And I talked about housing and settlement. I talked about medium and small enterprises. I talked about the agenda of universal health care. I talked about the information superhighway. This is the agenda of the government, you know. I talked about food security and agriculture, and you saw I demonstrated why the food situation in the country has really improved across the country. You go to
what can you tell us about that? You are comparing 2021 and now.
You saw
what are the demographics?
The demographics, you can get that in the Central Bureau of Statistics. But at the local level, even in Western Kenya here, you will see that a 2 kilogram container full of maize was costing 250, 2021, 2022. Today, you saw that in the public domain. The young people themselves said they are now buying at 50. In fact, even lower. And then I told them, look, what the president did was this. He didn't want us to import food from Malawi or Zambia. He simply identified the problem. And that is what leadership is all about. He said he identified the problem, and he knew that the problem was that we were using wrong fertilizer and even the wrong seed. When he corrected that, you can see how much food we are now having, and we are saving money that we would be using to import food from outside. It's not rocket science. The president did the diagnosis, and then he did the prescription. The prescription has borne fruit. And so That's what he meant by food security and agriculture. And you can see across the country, I think the food situation has really improved. So 2021 now, come to 2021, we were a miserable country. We were a miserable country, and I think people will have to thank our president for this. We were a miserable country. We are begging for food. Kenya is no longer begging for food now. Now we have abundance, and that's why the president is even saying that we have abundance, has now embarked on a process to set up aggregation centers, which now will keep the food, and we look for markets to start selling that food so that it doesn't get spoiled. Now, our problem is to get the storage facilities that can keep food for a long time, and then we get the right market prices and we sell. The president has taken us on a journey, and if people don't join him, they will find that they are left behind. And we don't want them to be left behind. And that's why as leaders we come here to explain this. So that's on food security alone. I would go on and talk about universal health care.
Yeah, you can talk about that one.
You know, there are people who have talked about universal health care, and you know, Robert, they say the president is, why is he bringing SHA? Why has he created the social health authority? Yes. Why is he doing this social insurance? The president is just curing a disease. He again did the diagnosis. Robert, you read these things, and I don't know why you people in the media sometimes also swallow things without analyzing.
No,
them.
we in the media have been talking about the process at which SHA was arrived
at. No. It's not about process. Let me tell you. The president is thinking about a bigger thing. The president is saying, look, many people are just an inch, a centimeter away from poverty if they get one of their members sick. They can't pay. Most of these private hospitals in Kenya charge really obnoxious prices for very simple treatment. And so people don't have that money. So what the president said, why don't we revolutionize this? You have been on an insurance, even with your workers in this place.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get onto an insurance, and you say one worker will get maybe 50,000, you put that in health insurance. When they arrive at the insurance firm, after they have been treated once, the insurance asks, how much were you given for insurance? That money will be chewed in one admission, and the next time you have nothing. Because they have found there's money there, so that you start now looking for money again when they visit the hospital.
So they have been cooking figures.
Figures which are not correct. So the president said, we don't have to interfere with them. They must be competitive. Let us now equip government hospitals, categorize diseases which take a lot of money, and make sure that the government meets the treatment of those diseases to make sure that people we can have people affording government paying. Say, we can go on with the old system,
yes,
and then many people can't afford. You go into a hospital for malaria tests, and you leave the hospital having spent. No, it won't happen. And the government is going to pay for that. So this thing, health care, as it was defined before President Ruto became president of the Republic of Kenya, health care was the source of poverty. And by introducing SHA, the president is helping Kenya, empowering them to fight poverty. And so this is what my brother you can think about. But I think if you spare me a second, I can just talk about one pillar.
I can spare a minute.
Yes, a second. maybe I have bad manners for asking for too much time.
No,
but you know what?
I can explain.
But you know what? Let me tell you, Robert.
Yes.
A lot of people, the people around the country, need to listen to the president and his thinking. The president's thinking is scientific. It's not witchcraft. It's not superstition. The president looks at figures, analyzes. We have sat with him many hours as he analyzes the situation. He thinks like a scientist that he is. So look at housing and the housing and settlement, which is one of the pillars of the Kenya Kwanza administration. And this is the pet program for the president. People talk about housing, and you hear fellows telling you that, you know what, we shall not own houses. The president is not telling you that everybody will own houses. And the young people should understand this. Whoever is opposing the president, let them sit down and concentrate. And even acquire a scientific mind to analyze things. Because that's the only way this country is going to go to places. housing, if you put up a house in places in Kakamega, put up a house, you have 2 housing units in Busia, and maybe they have 5, 6 stories. You'll probably take 2 years or 3 years to complete that house from finishing. How many people will benefit from that house? There are people who will sell food around there because they are fundis. There are people who will bring in electric cables. There are electric shops that will sell the cables. There are plumbers who will be there also fixing the pipes. There are people who will be selling things from the hardware. There are people who will look after that property security. You will employ over 15 people on a building, and they will all take money home to pay school fees for their kids, to buy something that is important for the family. If you take 3-4 years and you have housing units in Bungoma, in Kakamega, in Busia, in Migori, you will create jobs. So housing is about jobs. And people don't understand this. So he's not saying you own a house. You can own a house if that is possible, but those who don't own houses will actually get jobs. And those jobs will translate into money. That's how the president is empowering. And Robert, even that, there's another bit about housing. Housing is also about saving agricultural land. It's about food security. People don't, you listen to the president. The president talks about, if we have housing, we put up houses, the president has said we must plan now. If you look at Bungoma, you look at Kakamega, you look even at Eldoret. Some of the areas in Eldoret which used to produce food, this road to Iten, you can see that those areas are now being, occupied by concrete. People are putting concrete buildings there. Those concrete buildings are taking over arable land. If you go to Nairobi today, this area around the Ruak, as you go towards Kiambu, the whole of Runda is agricultural land. Now, it is under concrete, under cement. Now, as we do that, Kenya's acreage is not increasing. Where are we going to get the land to build houses? So it's possible now to identify places like in Eldoret, which are less productive, places in Kakamega which are less productive because we can't get agriculture, we cannot produce food around them. Then put up houses there, put up supermarkets around there and the schools, but those who have good arable land can still live their residence and go into the villages and then produce food for the country. That is the thing. That is the thinking around housing. I don't know. You know, Robert, you don't understand. That is what the president means by housing.
From civil servants.
What?
Civil servants are here. 3 of them have asked questions.
Yes.
Benson Nasongo and another one. That you are a civil servant and you are earning a salary. Now you have already done your mortgage. Labda you have done with the arrangement with a banking institution. You are still paying there. Now you are being deducted on the housing scheme. You are deducted, and then where those houses are being put is already government land. And then you will finish and then get to buy. How many types of losses will you have made? 3.
You know what? There is nothing, Robert, you can lose for doing something good for the country. You can't lose. How many times do you go to places, even people you don't know, and you contribute money because they are in problems? This country needs to change its attitude. That everything you do must support you as an individual.
Sure.
I think, Robert, that's where the problem is. If you look at big universities in Europe, people retire and hand over half of their retirement, or the entire retirement to an institution. They save money, and when they get retirement benefits, or they have been doing businesses, and now they say their days on the earth are now, dwindling. They donate everything to charity. That's how the Western world has grown. So now people are asking, if they deduct my salary to support somebody who can't afford, to create a job for somebody who doesn't afford, I always ask, how am I going to benefit? We are privileged to be in employment. Those who are doing business are privileged to be in business.
Yes.
When we are privileged to be what we are, Robert, let us support those who don't have. So people who are already civil servants, they should think
So
about.
Kenyan civil servants are donating for those who are not.
They do not
are
have to
having-
own the houses, but
Okay.
we have to help, because even we pay taxes, Robert. There are other taxes we pay.
So who will occupy these houses?
The houses can be occupied by Kenyans who want houses.
Okay.
But those who don't have houses, the day you die, Robert, you will say, I supported this.
Somebody.
Today, I have contributed balls, which I was given by the president.
Yeah, sure.
These balls I have given out today in those centers.
Yeah, so many teams.
Those balls are not free. So the civil servants who are asking you, ask them, what about the balls that the PS has contributed, which were given to him by the president? Where did the president get the money? You have also asked me that I tried to support young people who are playing. Where did I get the money? The schools I've been to, Kuywa, places like Bungoma High School, I don't have children there, but I've supported. So if we really have a good spirit, we cultivate the spirit of feeling, if you have something, some people in this country would prefer if they have food and they cannot eat that food, they throw it away. Instead of giving somebody to eat. We need to cultivate the spirit of supporting others. That's how we shall bring up institutions. Sure. When people call you to school, and Robert, your child has already finished Form 4 or already in university, don't say, this school, I have no child. If we have that attitude, you are going to question everything. When you go to a funeral, you will say, you know, there is a funeral here, but they are saying we contribute some money, but I have nobody who has died. So as you do that, everybody says, or wait until I have a funeral, that's when you will talk to me. But why are you telling me to contribute? I don't know so and so, so I have no funeral. The president is changing Kenya and changing the thinking. And that's why we're doing that. So tell the civil servants, that contribution can benefit some, those who want to acquire those houses at a longer mortgage. But those who don't want to buy, to benefit, look at the people who fought for independence and put their life on the line for us to be free and to talk like this. If they were thinking that anyway, they are 60 years, 50 years, they will die, they don't care, so they are not going to fight for us, Robert, we would not be here. So the spirit of assisting others, doing something that will benefit others, not ourselves, is what the President Ruto is putting in place in this country.
Why do you think there was no civic education to these even civil servants about what they are expected to do over the housing scheme? I think
so. I think it is not true. There are people who have been very negative in this country, and we need to encourage them to listen. I've told you, the civic education that we did around housing was done by the president himself during the campaign. By the way, you abandoned this idea. We were discussing the agenda, and I told you the agenda of the president was 5 pillars.
Yeah, you are on pillar number 3.
And we did town hall meetings. The president was here, was in Kakamega. I was with him in Musingu.
But that one he was campaigning.
No, yes, but he explained food security. He explained universal health care. People didn't listen because they didn't think he was winning elections. But now they are thinking it's a new thing. The president explained universal health care, and he told them, he talked about housing and settlement. And he even kept, like in Western here, he kept talking about the way agricultural land is disappearing in Kakamega and how we can look for a place to save that agricultural land. Even in Viga, he talked the same. He talked in Kimilili. So the civic education you are talking about was done at town hall meetings. And many people attended those things, and actually people voted for the president because of those town halls. So now, wait, Robert, wait. Now where we are here, if people did not listen properly about what the president said, and maybe he was, or they missed the sessions, I'm now explaining. And I've explained to you what housing is all about, so they understand. At the end of the 5 years, you will have to judge the president and his government on these 5 pillars. Is it true that the President Ruto has not done anything about agriculture and the food? He said he will bring down the cost of living. Is it true or false? I think it is.
Yeah.
Is it not true that the president has actually done something that has improved health care? If it is not true, You again answer that. And we shall do that record, because you have to judge the president by the manifesto he campaigned on. So, if he has brought down the cost of living and he's working on this, judge him there. I want just to conclude this part by telling you
The housing
the,
issue.
the information superhighway is powering everything. And he again talked very many things about the information superhighway. It's not a fashion show that the president is putting digital hubs. He's moving the fiber wire, and he's moving this wire through the Kenya power line. He's doing that because it's part of his manifesto. President Ruto has never abandoned his agenda. But some people think they should derail him to do what he did not say he will do. So judge him on those things, and let's see what happens. But while he was doing what happened, Robert, which some people have not taken, the whole nation should listen.
Yeah.
How much money has the president got that you are paying? Across the country, I'm asking this question.
Yes.
How much money since 2022, when President Ruto took office, that he borrowed that you are paying, and you are suffering for paying for that money? How much? You should be an honest person. Are we paying any debt that Ruto incurred?
Let me look at it this way. Last week, China gave a loan. Was it 90 billion, or how much was it?
There is a context.
Yeah.
I'm now asking, because you have
new loans. You are talking about new loans.
Yes, but since he took over, how much money that Ruto took that you are now paying?
I think you are in government. You can give us the figures.
Okay.
Because he has taken
zero
several loans.
You know, loans have a certain portfolio.
Yeah.
And they take a longer time to pay. They have certain instructions. President Ruto will be judged by how he uses the money he has borrowed, even for the last 2 years. But there is no money that President Ruto has pushed Kenya to take that Kenyans are paying. Zero. He collects every 100 shillings that President Ruto collects as tax. He pays 61 for loans he did not take. Have these Gen ever listened to?
How was the loan portfolio when Kenya Kwanza came on power?
It was huge. In fact, when Kenya Kwanza came to power, we were running into 7 trillion.
7 trillion.
Yes.
And how much has been paid so far?
They have paid. That's why the shilling, we have cleared most of those loans. Some are still maturing under us, and we didn't take. Actually, the estimation is that you saw the other day they ordered for a forensic review of all our debts. The declared one was about 7 trillion, but it could probably be about 15. Because some loans are now maturing, and you see people coming out. You have even seen in the government, we have pending bills committee, because some people didn't declare, but they are now declaring. So the figure could be even 3 times bigger. So these loans are taken, and people sometimes personalize those loans, but all of us Kenyans pay. So, but because of the payment, and this is very critical for us, because the president undertook to pay loans he did not take. Underline, he did not take. But he is the head of government. He must honor our obligations. That's why the dollar ya Marekani imepigwa mangumi na shilingi ya Kenya. So mnajua hivyo? Watu walioweka dola, early this year the president warned that hii dola yenu mtashindwa hata kumahali pa exchange. The dollar is strong. If you want to weigh the strength of a country and its leadership, look at how its currency relates to the other currencies. The dollar has stuck in one position. Hata ukijaribu kuomba, hata ukienda kwa uchawi ati irudi chini, haiwezi. So that's the reflection that we paid. But if we didn't pay, Robert, saa hii exchange rate ya Kenya ingekuwa $1 at 250. But now it is 128. So that shows leadership. And that is the reason why I'm telling you that when the president now was dealing with his agenda, he also had debts to pay. His decision to pay debts he did not incur, has saved our economy, and that's why our shilling is strong.
Strengthening.
Yes.
Ningependa ongea swali hili kwa Kiswahili kwa minajili ya Emmanuel Juma ambaye anataka achukue clips kadhaa kwa lugha ya kwa dira ya saa 3 usiku. Labda kuhusu swala hilo la shilingi ya Kenya kuimarika dhidi ya dola ya Marekani. Kuna wadadisi wa masuala ya biashara ambao wamesema, wameita kwa Kiingereza kwamba that is artificial. Sababu anauliza mbona shilingi ya Kenya ina strengthen, inapata nguvu dhidi ya dola ya Marekani, ili hali shilingi ya Kenya dhidi ya shilingi ya Uganda na shilingi ya Kenya dhidi ya shilingi ya Tanzania imeshuka.
Sasa unajua mtu ambaye anauliza hilo swali, hiyo shilingi ya Kenya na Tanzania hatuwezi kuitumia kupima shilingi ya Kenya. Shilingi ya Kenya ni ya kimataifa, inapimwa. Hata Waganda wenyewe wanatumia pesa yetu. Na wewe unajua hata ukienda Kampala utafanya kazi kupitia kwa pesa ya Kenya, ukiwa nayo utanunua vitu Uganda bila shida. Sasa shilingi yetu, kama sisi tunacheza mpira, wewe mwenyewe umeniambia wewe ni mtu wa Man U. Sasa mtu wa Man U umerudi unacheza ligi ya chini hapa, sasa umeenda division 4. Kenya inacheza mpira na inakipima na madola makubwa. Hii currency ya watu wengine
hapa
haiwezi kuwa pima ya nguvu ya Kenya. Na Kenya iko na nguvu. Sasa sisi tunakipima na euro. Sisi tunakipima na euro. Tunakipima na dola. Tunakipima na yen. Na yen imejaribu kutupika makonde, tumeipika makonde, imeanguka. Dola tumeipika makonde, imeanguka. Na ni sababu kwamba sisi heshima yetu katika nyanja za kimataifa ni kwamba tumekuwa tukilipa madeni. Rais Ruto amelipa madeni. Na alipolipa madeni, ikaonekana kwamba watu wako na imani kubwa kwa uchumi wa Kenya. Sasa imekuwa vigumu sana dola ya Marekani kuweza kutuangusha na kutuchapa makonde. Na kama President Ruto hangelipa hayo madeni, basi ingekuwa sasa hii shilingi ya Kenya ingekuwa kama mkeka wa kujipanguzia matope. Lakini sasa ni shilingi ambayo sarafu yetu imeimarika kwa sababu ya mpango maalum wa Rais Ruto. Na ndio nimekuambia kwamba mahali tumefikia sasa, nguvu ya Kenya inapatikana kwa mipango ambayo mikakati imewekwa hapa ya kuweza kuimarisha uchumi wetu, na inaonekana wazi. Na rais, hiyo ndio mpango wake ameangalia. Aliona asipolipa madeni basi itakuwa. Sasa anapolipa madeni, Bwana Robert, anapolipa hiyo madeni, madeni ambayo president wetu hakuchukua, watu wanasema ameharibu uchumi. Ameharibu uchumi. Hela ambazo analipa ni hela zake. Ngoja hizo hela anatafuta kutupanga. Muulize alifanyia nini, atakwambia alifanya fertilizer subsidy na mmeona chakula kinaonekana. Hizo hela ambazo analipa, uliza tangu 2013 hapo, muulize kabisa walifanyia nini. Sasa wale ambao walikuwa wanapika vita rais, sasa ndio wamegeuka, anawalipia madeni na wanampika vita. Hiyo itakubalika namna gani?
Watu gani hawa, Profesa?
Hapana, pesa zilichukuliwa na watu. Hiyo madeni ambayo rais analipa ilichukuliwa na viongozi. Sasa ilipochukuliwa na viongozi, rais wetu amefanya heshima, analipa hayo madeni. Akiwalipia madeni, wanakuja kuambia vijana wetu kwamba hii serikali inaanguka leo. Hii serikali haianguki. Sasa ndio nakwambia,
nimeongelea swala hilo kwa urefu kidogo.
Hilo swala la muhimu sana. Na unajua pengine hili ni jambo kubwa sana kwa vijana. Hapa katika nchi yetu kuna maneno. Sisi tunafanya kazi kwa serikali na tunajua, tunaelewa maneno mengi. I've told you to think scientifically. Right now, President Ruto has looked at again the problem of the youth in this country, and he understands the problem. The problem with the youth in this country is that they are poor, they can't, but they have skills, and they have capacity. So he said, so what do we do? We are employing our kids who have C, who have even B minus, paying them 5,000 shillings per month. These kids, if they're girls, they won't get married. The boys will not get married. They can't look after family. So what did the president do? He said, I don't mind. Let me see how we can empower them. He embarked on the information, which is pillar number 5, the information superhighway, which means he's asking our kids to access the international traffic, digital traffic. Then using cheap mobile smartphones, they can get onto Google and other search engines to look for jobs abroad, virtual jobs. That's where wealth is. Wealth is no longer in minerals. Wealth is now on ICT. Wealth is in business. So what he's doing is, when he empowers them, Robert, and you need to listen, because you have asked me to talk about this. He said, immediately the president says that, some people pull aside our kids and tell them, wachana na yeye. But what do they want? They want our kids to be impoverished permanently. So that President Ruto abandons the ICT empowerment program so that these kids continue earning 5,000. These kids are being treated by some people as the industrial reserve army. You sack a brother, you give a job to another brother at a lower price. These kids, for some people, they are providing cheap labor, and the cheap labor in political economy varies inversely as profit. The more you pay for labor, the lower profit you get. So what President Ruto has done, he has attacked that area. He wants more money to go to the youth so that we reduce the prices, the profits of these rich people. But the rich people are pulling our kids to say, please, you are okay with 5,000. I was in Sangalo, one of the institutes. I've moved across the country. In this, some of the Tibets. Kids, there was a kid last year in one of the Tibets who told us he had made 2 million shillings in 2023.
One year.
Yes, 1 year. And then we asked, and he was doing work with companies in America. Wakati sisi tumelala yeye saa 9 ya usiku yeye anafanya kazi. So the president says, let us empower kids along these lines. That's why he's bringing these computers. So that when, even today, we can coach these kids to play good football using the internet. And we can look at skills. We can see what makes a player a good player. Many people don't want our young people to be empowered. They don't. Because these young people, some people think, they should be condemned to earning silly salaries so that their labor is exploited. So that they think God doesn't like them. And even the person who is rescuing the kids now, who is President Ruto, these kids sometimes think he's the enemy. And this one is called the Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is when somebody has been enslaved, but when you come to rescue them, they support the person, the oppressor. Ruto is here to rescue our youth. But when they start supporting the people who have oppressed them, we must fight this Stockholm Syndrome. And that's why I'm here. And I'm speaking confidently about this because I understand the president's agenda.
ICT as a business. Now, how successful has been this implementation of the ICT hubs across the country? And maybe what percentage of the youth are actually benefiting from this program?
You know what? Robert, you have to understand, ICT has certain platforms. You know, ICT is about financial inclusivity. So that people can, not just the kids, but everybody can have a platform to do transaction.
Yes.
That's what we're doing. But to do that transaction, you need ICT infrastructure. Either you have digital hubs, or you have the fiber, and that's what the president is doing. So there are levels. The other big one is digital skills. There are people, if they give you a laptop, you might not know how to use it. You know, we used to have this phone called Mulikamwizi, which is about 2G. It can't go to 3G, not 4G. And if you have Mulikamwizi, you cannot access all the products on the information superhighway. So you have to get people who know the skills, but also who have the gadgets. So there is also the infrastructure, the devices, the skills, and then financial inclusivity. So when you ask about success, we have to think around it. We have about 3-4 factories now manufacturing chip-enabled phones. One of them is in the Earth River. I think you know it. Yeah. Because if you are going to buy the branded machines like Samsung, you will see that many people can't afford. So the president was thinking about $40 to $50, which will be just about 5,000, 5 or 6, depending on the exchange rate, which they can buy smart-enabled phones, which can make them access internet products through 4G. And then from 4G, they can now look for companies, go to specialized sites to access. I think we have, on that one, we have achieved a lot. That's why you can see even when the Gen Zs are rioting, you have seen they have set up sites. They're using artificial intelligence. If you have Mulikamwizi, you can't use artificial intelligence to distort facts. Yeah. So in fact, they are turning back to use the same tools the president is giving them to fight. But I want them to use these tools the best way, because these products are there. So in terms of success, we have put up digital hubs. Just early this year, the president ordered that digging the trenches to put the fiber wire, the green wire, is not a good thing because it's costing a lot of money. Yeah. So he came again thinking scientifically. And one of the things I admire about our president is that his thinking is scientific. So he told us that, look, you are spending a lot of money. Because that money, part of it it's government money, and it passes through my state department. He said, why don't we do Kenya Power Lines? We already have companies like Kenya Pipelines. We have the backbone. We now, Kenya Power has also its own backbone. Yeah. If we get very stuck and the main lines for Kenya's communication is in trouble, we can use the Kenya Power Line or the Kenya Pipeline as a redundance. And you people in the ICT sector, you understand what the redundancy is. We can turn all the data on that line as we repair the one that is spoiled. So the president looked at it and said, let us use the Kenya Power Lines to move the fiber into homes. Instead of talking about 1,100 kilometers, let us talk about 8.6 million homesteads. So that if I move that wire and in your home, I move the green wire, I bring it to your what? To your meter. Yes. It will just be a drop like Kenya Power, and you have Wi-Fi. That's what the president is doing. And we did the first one on the ground, and we have abandoned it. We have already appropriated over 12 billion shillings from the Universal Service Fund to use the infrastructure of Kenya Power, save resources, and we are hoping that in the next 2-3 years, Kenya Power have said they will do that in less than 3 years.
They're the ones rolling it.
They're the ones now rolling it because we don't have now to dig. We are just using their lines to get into homes.
Even for security.
Even for security. So we are doing that, and when you look at the process, the way it has started moving, ICTA is involved. Kenya Power is involved. ICTA is procuring Kenya Power. Communication Authority of Kenya is the one that is giving the finance through my state department. And now, you give it another 2 years, I'm seeing a situation where we shall be talking like we used to talk about food security, that now the food security has improved. Now, in another 2 years, you'll respect President Ruto. You are going to respect President Ruto. Yeah. Because he thinks scientifically.
Okay. That's you have talked about all the 5 pillars now.
Yes.
Now
I can even talk about the 6th one, which is climate change. And the president is respected across the world. You know, you have seen the president has been talking about reforms in the UN Security Council. Our international image is back on track. A few years ago, you know, Kenya was not being treated with seriousness. But now when President Ruto speaks, the international community listens. That is the reason why you have seen that the president has taken our policemen to Haiti. You think Kenya was accidentally chosen? Maximum respect, Robert. Maximum what? Respect.
We haven't received any results from Haiti. How is it?
No. The president was there.
Or you are controlling the information?
No, you know what? Once the president handed over
Yeah.
the troops to the international community, that is a UN function now. So if you want some reports about it, the UN Security Council met recently, and you saw the Secretary General saying that we need more funding for the troops, and more troops are going to join Kenya. So it's no longer a Kenyan issue. But because we initiated it and we took the first step, our respect in the international community is important. But now, that aside, you think about climate change. The president has been saying that, look, only 5 to 6%, and Robert, you know this, of the carbon emissions, dangerous gases, come from Africa. 95% of pollutants come from Europe and Asia. Yet Africa is suffering the highest, the biggest effects of this. So the president said, you made commitments to deal with this problem, and you have not supplied us with the resources. He's asking UN nations to, members of the UN system, to make sure that they give us the resources to deal with these carbon emissions. That has been his agenda. That agenda, you know, it influenced COP 2023. You remember?
Yeah,
and it has changed the way people look at climate change, courtesy of President Ruto. So, in essence, you are looking at a country that has been lucky to have a leader of this kind, making us internationally relevant, but also making us nationally dynamic and focused. If he's doing this kind of thing, what are we supposed to do? As citizens, we must join him. So we must join him to get this agenda. He's not doing it for himself. He's probably comfortable. He can still stay and keep quiet. But the president is the last Kenyan to go to bed, the first Kenyan to wake up. Why does he do that? You think he doesn't value his sleep? He does, Robert.
Yeah.
And so that's why these pillars I've talked about are critical in understanding. And when we judge the president and his government, we judge him according to the pillars he said. You know performance contracting, Robert.
Yeah,
they judge you from the performance indicators you put in place.
Sure.
The president put up these 6 performance pillars, judge him there. He cannot come to your home and start doing the fencing. You do the fencing. But if you fail to do the fencing, don't blame the president. Okay.
Thank you very much. On the online sector, thank you very much. A lot of progress here. Thank you, my brother Munyori. Thank you very much for keenly, you say you are keenly the rabble rouser speaking. Okay, thank you very much, Emmanuel Talam, from the Office of the President. You are following the conversation. And then I have some questions here from this guy. He says he's Yuabakoki. He's called Kasilimu Tambo. Kasilimu Tambo stays in the United States of America. He's following this conversation on the Tandao Extra app, and he has questions here. Question for KPS.
Yes.
The progress in this region. On 1, free Wi-Fi in urban centers. The ICT city in Matili. 4, how many youth are employed and benefit from digital economy? Most of it you have answered, but you answer the ones that you feel you can touch on. Number 5, the promotion of e-learning in tertiary institutions. Number 6, pupils and students tablets for remedial learning and digital libraries. Number 7, plans for e-commerce. Number 8, digital infrastructure update and progression. Number 9, hey, okay, let me just read it so that you can take whatever that you will talk about. Update on national optical fiber backbone infrastructure, NOFB, installation and reach vis-a-vis Starlink competition. Number 10, green energy and green economy. And then number 11, electrical power distribution and last mile connectivity, as many villages function only during the day with two-phase mains, found isolated markets and neighborhoods that cannot support industrialization and local economies. Otherwise, say good to my Bakoki PS.
Yes, I thank Bwana Mutambo.
Kasili Mutambo.
You know, what it means, you know, by saying it's Bakoki.
Yes.
Kamsa is the same period.
Yeah,
but he has raised very many issues. Some of them have already dealt with them. But you know very well that across the country, I told you the entry point for digital transformation. You have to do the infrastructure. After the infrastructure, you get the devices.
Yeah.
Then you do the skilling. Those levels are critical. Now, our countries are different levels. When it comes to operations, especially for Wi-Fi, one of the challenges we have been facing, and that's why you see an accelerated electrification program, even in places in Western. That is by instruction of the president. The president is accelerating that process because he realizes when we put Wi-Fi in places like Bungoma, Kapsabet, I'm talking about real things, Migori, Homa Bay, Kisumu. We used to put those initial Wi-Fis at marketplaces, but you know, people started asking who pays the electricity. So sometimes, so we say now, how can we make sure that this place is powered on government funding? Because we thought that people will volunteer to provide power. So some of them are working, but because there is a pour over who pays electricity, they look like they are not working. So we are correcting that. While we do the infrastructure for Wi-Fi, we also do the electricity. And we also know that, and that is the thinking of the president, that if now we take the fiber into homes, you will not ask anybody to pay for you electricity. It will be part of your payment. So many people will still access Wi-Fi in their homes without complaining about who pays for electricity. So we are trying to solve the problem in that context, but a lot of money and effort has gone into this. If you look at those 10 questions, they surround what we have done. And I think, Robert, you can, where we are here, I can just tell you. You know, we supplied a lot of Kongenge in the scheme. JSM Boys High School, Socio, and Mamalo Kijana. In Nairobi, we did at Waithaka Technical. You know, we have.
I've personally been distributing.
Yes.
That's why.
So really, we if you go to very many parts of the country, even Nairobi Coast, the Embu, we have. But we now are sorting out the issue of power. We have now something called KDAP, the World Bank Kenya Digitization Program. They have pumped in a lot of money now for digital skilling. So I told you, give us another 2 years to see this program that President Ruto is spearheading, because he's our commander. That's our commander. You will respect the president so much that when he will want to leave, to go home, you will stick on him. Because what he's doing, you know, you might have some... you will see some pain. But you can see the pain he undertook not to import maize, to have a quick fix for food. Now we are laughing about food. So what you tell my brother is, if he wants a summary of all those 10, 15, 11 questions on each, he should get in touch with me. You should give him my details so that I prepare a ministerial government. We get into ICTA, we get specific figures for him, but which will demonstrate that the government, Kenya, digitally speaking, Kenya is not where it was in 2022.
I think part of the question number 3, he was talking about has the primary school program of provision of laptops and those small gadgets, is it working? Because we looked at a story on the Nairobian and also the Daily Nation, East African, whereby 62% of the schools had collapsed that program.
You know that
how successful is it?
That program had issues. You know, it started off the initial. You know, this is not a new program. It's not a new program made by the president. It was there, but it was badly.
It was rolled over from the previous administration.
These are legacy projects. And I'm sure you are calling me here to discuss the really manifesto of President Ruto. Sometimes he's correct, just like he's paying other people's loans. So there were problems with that primary thing, starting from the gadgets themselves and their quality. You get the point? Those were issues. But now, we have accelerated the digitization, and you know, some of those gadgets were supplied to primary schools without being backed by infrastructure. If you supply computers, laptops, to a place which doesn't even have electricity or it doesn't have internet connectivity, you want our kids to do manual things, they won't do it. So people thought about devices before they thought about the infrastructure. Now that has been a challenge because some primary schools are in places where the infrastructure, the devices cannot be used. So what we're doing is we want to solve the problem. The solution is most of these primary schools, most of our schools
do not have electricity.
No, they have electricity, but some of them have issues of payment. But you know, even in your own village, you will see that with the marketplaces. Then now, we want to go to and have. It doesn't matter how beautiful the devices are, the program will fail. So Robert, when you go out there, tell people. The reason why some people don't understand our president is because the president applies science. He has looked at it and said, what is the use of giving devices when you have beauty? Get the devices, do digital skilling. And that's what we're doing in our ministry.
I'm proud that the chair, one for PS, elaborate also on this. How is the government planning, and I said, how is the government planning to maintain healthy communication sensitive period, and what are the expectations from media outlets to ensure fair coverage of the impeachment while protecting the integrity of information? Tumeingia kwa impeachment. I was trying so much to avoid it, but now
Robert,
we are there.
I'm not talking about impeachment. You know,
information flow.
No, I'm not doing politics.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the president's development agenda. I'm capable of doing politics, but I can't go into that. The job about what you're talking about as impeachment, that is the job of the legislature. I don't belong there. I'm not even a member. Mimi ni mtu wa mkono wa rais. The president is the head of the executive.
But they have been saying they are disturbing the president's agenda.
The president is forecast. If you see the president is very relaxed. He's the of parliament. So parliament has a constitutional duty. The executive doesn't control parliament. So when whatever decisions they make, you know, Robert.
Yes.
Even me, even after the president was kind enough to nominate as a PS.
Yes.
It was not the end of the story. I ended up in parliament to vet me. So parliament is going nowhere. So when they do their job, let's not. You know, Robert, it's just what priorities do we have and what do we understand? We want to improve the relationship to higher levels. The government recognizes the role of the media in reporting. I have been a PS for 2 years now. 2 months. You know that, Robert?
Okay.
Now, have you ever had me close a media house? I have capacity to close even this media house, but I cannot do that.
You can't.
I'm a gentleman.
Yeah.
The Communication Authority of Kenya, which is the regulator of the industry, has not closed any media house. So this thing about relationships with the media, which is bad, we have allowed the media to call people all truth, and it can ruin our country. So responsible reporting in the media is important for our country, because we can't do business when we have misinformation and disinformation. But as far as our relationship, we want to improve it more. We know that we have some money we need to pay the media. You know, the government ordered
and the businesses as well.
Yeah, and the businesses. Yes, we shall. The president ordered for verification of what? Of pending bills.
Okay.
These pending bills, some of them go up to 2005. And sometimes we don't have the correct documentation. We had budgeted for that. Even in the last budget, we had budgeted to pay that money. But you know what? The Stockholm Syndrome. Even the media who we were going to pay, some of them thought that they should sabotage the finance bill.
Okay.
The president now said, because the people have said, no, we leave it. So how do you eat your cake and have it? Here, on one hand, you want people to, your bills to be paid. On another hand, you don't want government to do taxation. So do you want the president to use his own money to pay the media? I mean, you have to be realistic.
The Stockholm syndrome.
The Stockholm syndrome.
Somebody is talking about it here.
Yes.
Gideon Wafula-Wekesa is saying, Professor is misusing concepts like Stockholm syndrome. Who is the oppressor in Kenya? Is the government not part of the system that has marginalized the majority in favor of the few? For how many years has President Ruto been in government? Who has he liberated so far, save for his few friends?
You see, we have been discussing for now probably an hour about issues. If, for example, my brother Gideon doesn't even see that by changing the model of farming and bringing in correct fertilizer, the president has not liberated us from the poverty caused by lack of food, then the rivers are going back to the mountain. So I don't know what I don't want to explain too much, because if the president has not made Africa be known, the agenda, the climatic degradation of Africa caused by Western countries, if that is not going to release funds to make sure that we fund the carbon emission programs to save Africa from collapse, and he has not saved us from that, then what would? If by talking about the housing scheme, and I have talked about, by talking about the digital empowerment, where the kids are now going to get Wi-Fi connectivity in their homes through the Kenya Power Program. All these programs I've talked about, I wish Gideon, instead of doing a blanket dismissal of what we are saying, and I invite him even to come to my office, so that maybe we can continue with the conversation. I can, and then I can talk to him, and maybe I was a bit too complicated, so that I can explain some of the things I've been explaining.
Point by point.
Yes, but I think it's a rather harsh thing to say that William Ruto has not liberated. And you know, this is a stereotype. But you know, also he said that I'm misusing terms like Stockholm syndrome. Let me explain. Sometime back, a few decades ago, probably more than 4 decades ago, there were thieves who raided a bank in Stockholm, Sweden.
Yes.
Then they took everybody mateka. The workers became hostages.
Yes.
So food was being supplied there because the authorities feared if they stormed the place, these guys were also armed, they would kill the hostages. So they gave them some food, water through the window. Then they started sharing the food with the people they had taken hostage. Then they became friends with the captors. So when now the final crackdown came and they were liberated from the hostages, and the government now announced that now the hostages are the property of the state, and they were going to be charged in court. To face criminal charges, they said, no, don't touch them. They gave us food.
Okay.
That is what the Stockholm syndrome is.
Okay.
So I don't know whether Gideon understands even what the Stockholm syndrome is.
Now you have explained what it
so
is.
now you defend the people who captured you. You shared the food, and now when the government comes to punish them, you say no. So in the case of William Ruto, he's the one helping some people to pay loans that he did not take.
But he's being hanged.
And then he's being told he's the enemy. The real enemy is the person who took loan, and we don't know how they used the loan. And then William Ruto is helping to pay for that loan. So now our people are getting into Stockholm syndrome. supporting the people who have caused them misery and denouncing the person who is liberating them. So I hope I've helped that. I have taught at the university for over 33 years, and Gideon could be my student.
Okay.
But I explain things simply. So I hope he understands that I've not misused
where you are
Stockholm.
coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Raphael Wekesa Milimo. Omwami hunyola loud and clear live from Lolongo, Nairobi. Asante sana. Kaka Wanjala jina kubwa. I'm getting you loud and clear from Kakamega. Salimia Professor Waswa sana. Asante Kaka Wanjala. Bramwell Machio, loud and clear from Machakos County. Thanks much for what Professor has done today, particularly for my home team Kuywa FC. Asante sana wote ambao umetuma jumbe zenu. Zidi kutuma tu, mimi niko hapa nitakuwa nazisoma soma. Prof, basi ukimalizia pila gani ambayo ungependa kuongelea sana upande wa Rais William Ruto? Nguzo, manake nguzo ni 5, umeongeza ya 6. Sasa kwa lugha ya Kiswahili wananchi wapate kusikia, manake ni saa moja ni lugha ya Kiswahili. Ungependa kuongelea nguzo gani kwa muda kidogo?
Hapana, unajua nimeongea Kiingereza, tumeongea lugha yetu ya kitaifa. Lakini hakuna pila moja ama nguzo moja ambayo ni kubwa kushinda nyingine.
Ndio.
Kile watu wetu wanatakana wajue kwamba Rais Ruto wakati alikuwa naomba kura, aliweka manifesto yake akaleta nguzo ambazo alitaka Wakenya watumie kumpigia kura. Aliomba kura ili awapatie nguvu na uwezo Wakenya wetu wajikimu kimaisha kupitia kwa ujenzi wa nyumba na makazi. Akasema anataka kuboresha hali ya afya, biashara ndogo ndogo. Akasema matibabu imekuwa chanzo cha maskini katika taifa letu. Akataka kuwaokoa kutoka janga hilo, kwa sababu wale watu wa hospitali binafsi walikuwa wamedhulumu watu wetu kwa kuitisha pesa nyingi. Akasema hilo jukumu lichukuliwe na serikali. La 5, akasema kwamba watoto wetu wakifanya biashara ndogo ndogo lazima tuweze kupanua nyanja ya mtandao ili tujenge uchumi wa kidijitali. 6, akasema kwamba yetu yamedorora. Na hii fanya kitu chochote tutachikuta kwamba mazingira yetu ya na narudia hiyo jambo. Hapa tuko mwezi wa 6 nilisema kiongozi wa Kenya ni Ruto, watu wote nyuma yake, hata Kisiang'ani watu wa mkono. Sasa sisi watu wa mkono wa rais, kila wizara imepewa siku moja kwa mwezi ya kupanda miti. Ndio mmeniona huko Kisii, mmeona huko Nandi, tumepewa. Sasa hapo hiyo kupanda miti kikezo kimoja ambacho kiko katika performance contract yetu. Kwa sababu president wetu amesema tuokoe mazingira. Sasa hizi nguzo zote ndizo nguzo ambazo Rais Ruto anataka kupitia ili aweze kuimarisha maisha ya watu wa Kenya. Ukiangalia maisha yetu, ukiona kuna mnunguniko mkubwa, ni kwa sababu kutokea juu hii nchi ilikuwa imezoea kufanya kwamba watu wachache wakiwa juu na wakapata pesa nyingi. Hata wewe ukiwa na kampuni yako kama hii, wakipata mali nyingi watapatia watu wa chini. Lakini kwa miaka 60 iliyopita tumejaribu kufanya hivyo na umaskini umeongezeka. Sasa rais wetu amebadilisha mtindo na amesema hata wale wako na mali juu hatuna haja ya kuwapiga vita. Tutafute njia ya kupitia kwa hizo nguzo 6. Hata hiyo miti unajua panda miti. So umeiona tulikuja kupanda miti Mount Elgon, tukanunua miti. Sasa tunanunua miti. Sasa vijana ambao wanatafuta serikali. Sasa hawa watu wa chini tuwapatie pesa. Tukiwapatia pesa wakakuwa na kazi na wakajitetea kimaisha, wakalipa school fees, wakaweza kuzalisha chakula, basi wale wajua wako na mali yao wanaweza kuendelea kufurahia mali yao. Lakini wa chini pia wainuke. Sasa wakati president wetu anajaribu kuinua watu wa chini, kuna watu wanauliza, na watu wa chini unawainua nini? Wewe unainua hawa watu wa nini?
Wabaki huko.
Vita ambavyo vinapigwa Ruto ni kwa sababu wanataka kuinua watu wa chini. Kuna watu wako juu huko wanataka watu wa chini wanyanyazwe. Waendelee kutoa kuwa ndio source ya labor, cheap labor, wakiwanyanyaza, wakitengeneza profits za juu, lakini wakienda nyumbani wao ni maskini mafukara wa dunia. Sasa Ruto anaangalia chini, wale wanaompinga wanaangalia juu.
Ama wanatumia wa chini kumupinga.
Stockholm syndrome. Nimesema Stockholm syndrome. People who have been opposing the president need to fight this Stockholm syndrome. Tusaidiane. Robert, wewe hata watu wa media saidia. Mtu anakuokoa. Nyoka imekushika koo. Na mtu anakuja kukuokoa, ukishika panga atumkate nyoka anasema usiikate. Hiyo ni nini?
Ati imenisaidia.
Ati imenisaidia. So we need to fight in such a way that we need to know where the problem is in Kenya, and we have to fix it. So in terms of unity, we need to unite around the agenda of the president. And let's see, he's the commander. He's telling us. Those of us who believe in him and who are in the campaign working with him, he had his politics, but he has his scientific mind. Even right now, when the president thinks about it, he has told us he wants to unite the country. And that's where we need to go. But we can't be united when everybody's talking everything. And then people are saying things which are not true. We are available in government to give information, support the president. And even when you realize that there is a mistake which is being made, there are very many channels, Robert, of reaching the president. These young people, I've met the young people today, I've told them, like I've told them even in Kisi, I've told them in other places, if they want to see the president, we can arrange for them to meet the president. Hapa Western, president comes here, he stayed here for over a week during Madaraka. He has stayed in Kakamega for a long time. And he does that everywhere. He has gone to Kajiado, he has stayed. He has gone to Mombasa, he has stayed. So what we need to do is, if the people don't understand what the president is saying, or they don't get certain facts right, we can arrange a one-on-one with the president. The president has already started town hall meetings. And I hope that, Robert, you will be at the forefront. We can organize one in Bungoma, so that he can come and meet our young people. The president will sit with you for a long time and then explain certain things that you didn't know, and he doesn't shy away from explanations.
Aya, Prof, naambiwa kwamba ulikuwa jana na shughuli fulani kule Nairobi kabla ya kuja Western, ambapo ilikuwa ni World Poster Day, na ukiwa hapo kulikuwa na coverage ilifanyika, na Wakenya wengi hawakujua hiyo siku vizuri, lakini kwa niaba ya washirika wenza ama wadosi wangu wa KTN, tumepewa clip hiyo, na kwa sasa Masi Shikuku ananieleza iko tayari kuingia hewani tupate kuitazama ile World Poster Day ambayo profesa alikuwa mgeni wa heshima hiyo jana. Wananchi mpate kushuhudia yote ambayo iliendelea World Poster Day. Masi, unaweza kutuwekea clip hiyo? Kisiang'ani alishuhudia hiyo jana, akakuwa mgeni wa heshima World Poster Day. Unaweza waambia watazamaji kwa dakika 2 hivi labda what did it involve?
Unajua World Poster Day ilikuwa inasherehekea miaka 150 tangu mashirika ya posta yalipoanzishwa mwaka wa 1874. Kuweza kuwapatia watu nafasi ya kupata habari na mawasiliano. Mwaka huu tulikuwa tunasherehekea hiyo siku na kwa kauli mbiu ya kuweza kuwapatia watu wetu nguvu ya mawasiliano na kuwawezesha kufanya mambo yao ya kibiashara na kiuchumi kwa njia ya mawasiliano. Sasa kwa hivyo Kenya ni mojawapo ya nchi ambazo ni mwanachama wa Universal Postal Union, shirika kuu la posta zote katika dunia, ambayo makao yake makuu yako huko Switzerland. Sasa kwa hivyo tulikuwa tunajumuika na dunia kusherekea safari ndefu ambayo imekuwa safari ya kuendesha mawasiliano kupitia posta, na ambapo sasa tumefikia mahali ambapo tunafanya mambo ya kidijitali tukiwapatia watu wetu nguvu. Kitu cha pili, tulikuwa tunasherekea kwa sababu posta ilianza na mabarua ya kutumwa, lakini sasa nguvu zake zimefuka mipaka na kufikia kiwango ambacho sasa posta pia inawasilisha vitu. Hapo tunatumia mitandao kuweza kuwasilisha vifaa, bidhaa mbalimbali kati ya nchi, ndani ya nchi, na hiyo imeboresha hali ya maisha, na tukasisitiza kwamba kwa hivyo serikali yetu bado itaweka rasilimali ya kutosha kusaidia shirika la posta hapa Kenya kuweza kunawiri hapa katika eneo hili na kuwa mwanachama maarufu katika shirika la maposta yote katika dunia. Hiyo ndiyo kazi ambayo nilifanya, na mnajua kwamba shirika la posta la posta hapa liko chini ya wizara yetu, na kama Communication Authority iko chini ya wizara yetu, Media Council iko chini ya wizara yetu, kuwakilisha posta, na kazi kubwa ambayo posta inaenda kufanya kwa e-commerce ni anaamini mambo ya nini? Mambo ya posta. Na kupitia kwa shirika la posta na kazi ya posta, hiyo e-commerce ndiyo italeta kazi. National Addressing System iko hapo ili kuweza kujua wewe kama unaishi katika rural areas kama hizi zetu, tunataka kutengeneza kupitia kwa shirika la posta, tuweke mapping ya kujua coordinates mahali unaishi. Sasa madawa yako ikitoka India ikikuja, ikifika posta tunaenda kuiweka hapa Bungoma, na pikipiki inapeleka mpaka kwa boma yako. Sasa hiyo ndio e-commerce tunatumia, na huko India watakuwa kuambia kwamba wamewaachilia mzigo wako unakuja, sio madawa peke yake, inaweza kuwa vitu vya stima. Sasa wewe unangojea tu hapa, utaona watu wa posta naingia na wanakupatia hiyo.
Imeimarishwa kabisa.
Sasa hiyo commerce ndio empowerment nyingine, na kazi zitapatikana hapo ambayo rais wetu anaongea juu yake. Sasa nilikuwa nafanya kazi ya rais.
Asante sana. Emily Waswa, asante sana. Katika YouTube unasema, Emily Waswa anasema I'm following PS as he articulates on Kenya Kwanza better plan. Haya, asante sana wote ambao mnazidi kutuma jumbe zenu hapa. Na kwa hivyo Prof, tukiendelea na mahojiano, unaona kwamba serikali ya Kenya Kwanza imeweza kuafikia maendeleo ambayo umeongelea hapa kutokana na umoja ndani ya serikali hiyo, ama kumekuwa na sehemu ambazo labda wananchi wanaona maafisa wa serikali labda hawajashikana mikono sawa sawa?
Nadhani katika nyumba yoyote mnaweza kuwa na kutoelewana kidogo kidogo, hakuwezi kukosa. It's very normal. But the most important thing is how you resolve those disputes. Small disagreement. You can't have a perfect family. Hata saa zingine wazazi mnakaa na watoto unasema hivi na watoto wanafanya hivi. So Kenya Kwanza administration doesn't have issues. What it has is that government, President Ruto has allowed us to think independently. He doesn't micromanage our ministries. We take decisions. Robert, I take decisions. If I close this media house of yours, it's not because the president has told me. He knows I know my job, and he knows I will take responsible decisions, which will respect the will of the people.
The people.
So therefore, there are times when people get the impression that there is fire. There is no fire. The commander-in-chief is strong, focused, and relaxed. He allows us to sometimes disagree. We sometimes even also tell him, this is a contrary opinion. What the president usually says, Robert. Na unajua kuna watu wengine wanasema uongo. The president will tell you, I am not persuaded. So persuade me on your point. He will not say, he will not tell you, I'm dismissing you. He will say, what you are saying, I'm not persuaded. He will ask you questions. When you persuade me, then when you argue your point, the president now says, if he is convinced, he will say, I'm persuaded. So there is quite a lot of exchange of ideas, people giving different arguments. But to say that the Kenya Kwanza government has not been united is not true. The commander-in-chief, President Ruto, pays a lot of attention to details. So when he asks for information, paying attention to details, people think he's probably disagreeing. He's not. And even us, he has trained us, by the way. We have been with him for a long time. We understand his work. He doesn't take a no for an answer. You have to persuade him. If you don't persuade him, don't go and blame other people. And he says, the first thing, the responsibility of all of us in government is service to the people of Kenya. He doesn't care about anything else. So really, the question that sometimes there are perceptions which are not true.
Yeah.
That government is very united. We believe in our president. We work very hard because we understand his manifesto. We know that we are here for a short while. And so the president puts us on our toes, but there's totally no disagreement in government. The government speaks with one voice. And you know what? Finally, we can have some small discussions, everybody holding their opinion. Once the president speaks, Robert, either directly or indirectly, watu wa mkono tunafuata.
Na mnanyamaza.
The commander has spoken. He's the leader. There is only one leader in Kenya. I mean, there's only one president in Kenya.
Yeah.
Matatizo yote ya Kenya inamkalia. Sasa sisi tunaongea alafu anakuja anasema wacha tufanye hivi. Tunasema commander amesema, commander in chief, we follow. And we implement. So there's no crisis.
Okay. When we started the interview, you talked briefly about SHA, transition from NHIF to SHA. Many Kenyans have seen stories during the last week. Many Kenyans have been visiting health institutions. They are being made to pay from their pockets because of the confusion of that transition. Now, many people are questioning how safe is this system, this new system, SHA. Can you talk about it? What does it mean for Kenyans to transit from NHIF to SHA? Because many say NHIF was just doing very well. Why are they transiting to SHA?
Those people who are telling you NHIF, you really think that NHIF is doing well, was doing very well?
No,
it is a national insurance fund, and you know the scandals that have been in NHIF. Even sometimes you go there and you have no insurance and you need to undertake an operation. You have seen those things. If people really think that the NHIF was doing very well, I still go back to my old story. The rivers are going back. Now,
the mountain.
Yes, because there were many issues, Robert. People even taking away government money to private hospitals, and which money disappears immediately. Under NHIF, there was no provision to treat diseases like cancer. You know that. You want to, people say you can be treated of cancer in India and you need to travel. You have totally no support from NHIF. There have been issues. We need to sort them out. So the transition let me now put it briefly so that the public can understand.
Yeah, sure.
The transition is about products. What does it embrace? The new scheme has several categories of diseases. You know, you have the primary health care. Robert, where you come from, people will always tell you the diseases, you wait for people to fall sick before you take them to hospital. But now there is primary health care where you can go and find somebody eating a lot of meat in the home, swallowing a lot of fat, which is not even properly boiled, and then you say, you know what, in the next 6 months, you are a candidate for obesity and a heart problem. That is what primary health care is. It costs nothing, but it saves people from entering the category of admission. That was not there under NHIF. Secondly, so if they are sick, how do they pay for that sickness? The president has said through SHA, we now can start paying that money through very well established health facilities, which we already have, but are not equipped.
Both private and public?
The private are there, but they charge different rates, and we can't interfere with the property. Government has a duty to treat people. Under the Constitution, we need to access healthy services. So therefore, at that level now, government takes the shoulder to treat people now who have escaped the primary health care. But there are also chronic diseases. Chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes. Now, there you have citizens who are already sick. They can't afford. Must they sell land? Must they sell their property? Or the children take loans which they will pay for 25 years, and even the patient dies. So now, categorization now, these are chronic diseases which the president is saying through SHA that we must pay for it for free. Because if you are on blood pressure drugs or diabetes, you will take those drugs for life. If you don't have money, you don't have children who are going to support you, Robert, who will pay for it? You will one day be told, mpeleka tu mgonjwa nyumbani, lakini mumpatie tu some Panadol, lakini sisi tumeshindwa. How many times have you had people being told, atu wameona ugonjwa hakuna tumeshindwa? After 1 week, the patient dies. So people are joking with this system. It is not about the president. The millions of Kenyans who can't afford health care. If you are you want to rear cattle, dairy cows, you know you need somebody to advise you. Before you go and buy the dairy cows, you should know the chemistry, the geography, the history, the physics of keeping cows. Alafu kwambia, are you up to the task? That prepares you for the actuariary. But people are doing things in our country today which are endangering their lives, but they have nobody to turn to. Our idea of treatment is narrowed to being taken to a doctor. We now want many people not to see a doctor through this primary health care. That investment was not there under NHIF. I can talk and talk, and you know now our mtandao is okay. People are distorting what NHIF. I want to simplify it. I don't want to take people to so many things. But what the difference between NHIF and SHA and the SHIP is about products and about access to Medicare. So if the transition for some reason in some health center has caused people to pay, those are teething problems which will be sorted out, because transitions cause a lot of problems. And some officers might have taken advantage to do what the president did not order. And we have received such a report. PS Kimtai has received those reports. We are sorting out that, and it will not be there. So don't worry about the teething problems. These teething problems will always be there in a new system. Where else do you want a fertilizer? When we started the fertilizer, some unscrupulous officers were trying to pack some sand into bags and start selling, and pretend that is the government. Which government can do that to its citizens? And then you blame the government. So those were artistic problems. But you have seen they have died.
Those were middlemen?
There were some fellows, criminals. And but you know, that was not government fertilizer. So when they do such kind of things, usually they want to pay in the name of the president and the government badly. Which government can sell sand to its people? You must be a mad person. You can't be. There's no government in the world which can do that. So right away when you such happening, you know they are not government sanctioned. So if the NHIF, let me tell you something. I am a subscriber to the chief. Let me tell you something. I wear some specs like you. I don't want to name the firm, but I am on a public service scheme where I'm entitled to about 70,000 shillings per annum for specs. So early this year, I went to by around April to get new specs. The specs clinic had officers who came and asked me, which insurance are you on? I named the insurance. And said, how much are you entitled to?
Oh, no. That was the first problem.
How much are you entitled? I said, I didn't know, because I didn't want to give that information, but they said, no, we shall find out. So they went to call the insurance. And they said, you are entitled to about 74. So they asked me, go and choose the
ones that
the frames.
want.
So I chose innocently. And after we settled on one which was good, they told me you will only add 5,000. Which
On,
means, so
on your premium.
right now, as I'm talking to you, all my specs money, even when the specs now get spoiled,
You cannot
or they
get
break,
ones.
I will have to pay for it.
You have to buy.
They wiped out my insurance for the specs. So they collude. You can see insurance firms collude with the insurance, the hospitals collude with the insurance firms to exaggerate prices, and you have nowhere to go because you have to get the specs. Suppose I was getting those specs in a government hospital.
5,000.
5,000. But now, all my 74s wiped out, so I have to wait for the next. I'm your PS. This is the reality. Now, if a PS is going through that, what about a common mwananchi who is having a problem with the eyes? Because I can still buy the glasses, but then a common mwananchi who can't afford that, and they are telling you that kind of story.
But that's direct fraud, Professor. What are you doing about it? Because you're the government, you have agencies.
You know,
can't you arrest these
you
people?
know what? We are doing very many things, including denying them the opportunity to repeat the mistake. That's why there is the SHA and the SHIF.
Okay. So implementing.
Yes, we are implementing a new measure. That is, don't you remember? What was your question? Your question was, why are they complaining?
Yes.
They are posing the highest complaints because they are the highest earners of this fraud.
Okay.
There's outright corruption. You have been admitted in hospitals. You see how hospitals work with. It's a cartel. They take away billions of shillings. Government budgets for treatment of it. Many of us will not end up in an admission. Government pays these insurance firms. Government through NHIF supports the Medicare of its citizens. But by 3 months after the start of the financial year, like we started the financial year in July, around October now, people are asking for ex gratia.
Because they don't have anything on their premium.
Yes,
already
ex gratia. You know what ex gratia means?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, that I have exhausted all my money for insurance. Now please arrange. So there is a provision in law that adds ex gratia. These are very chilling stories. The president has done a diagnosis. Again, when he tries to solve the problem, the Stockholm syndrome comes back. So you say, NHIF is working by wiping out your money for specs, colluding with the hospitals, governance issues there, to fleece the government. The government is always in permanent panic to raise money to pay ex gratia. In fact, the money the government pays for ex gratia outside the insurance is bigger than the money that is allocated for insurance for citizens, especially workers. So therefore, Do we sit back and see this thing going on? I may not be popular with the hospitals, private hospitals. I believe, Robert, I believe in government hospitals. You know what? Somewhere around the 1980s and the 90s, we lost a grip on national institutions. And we lost faith in them. I am a child of a primary school in Bungoma. The building I went to in Standard 4 is still alive, many years back. Some people pushed government to start, encourage citizens, private citizens, some of those who are in government, to set up academies. They tried to kill the public school. I was never a child of extra teaching. Teachers who are being paid money in salary now will want to ask for extra money in order to teach our children. Even in the primary schools which are public, you see these things. I never went through that. Am I a mediocre student? Now our kids are being told you have to come with the motivation money. Why would people be motivated when our teachers didn't ask for that? So this money, the academy became a center for better education. We killed the private, the public school. You know what? We also killed the public hospital. So that the big private hospitals became the centers of excellence, and we killed private dispensaries. It became a place for poor people who go there to get money. William Ruto is saying the public school will be the center of excellence. That's why we are taking their Wi-Fi's. He's saying the public hospital will be the center of excellence. You have seen until recently, these problems that the president is struggling with in the universities, he didn't cause them. In fact, when he shortly was the Minister for Higher Education, he tried to fix problems. But after he left, some people thought it is wise to put government money in private university. Did you know that until recently, some universities did not have students, while private universities were being sponsored, given money from the exchequer to admit students? Government can't lose that. So we now want to, you kill the public university, you kill the public hospital, you kill the public school, and you say you are a country. President Ruto is trying to revive our institutions. And I want to speak from my own personal experience. You saw I took a decision to give KBC, the national broadcaster, advertising rights. But I
denied it private.
No, I didn't deny. I used the law, which allows me to do public procurement, private, direct procurement. I didn't break the law. But when I did that, people complained. How can people cannibalize KBC, using government resources to cannibalize KBC, and we say we are a good country? Posta Corporation was cannibalized so that it doesn't work, so that courier companies can come up by private people. If we kill all these institutions as government, and we celebrate private institutions, these institutions are owned by the public. When the private people sell their property, their institutions, what will the government remain with? That's why the president has said, we must revive our institutions. And that's what he's doing. When he does that, the people who have been benefiting from that cannibalization of public institutions complain the president is not doing a good job. Must he do a good job for private people and ignore the entire country? He took an oath. My brother, the president took an oath. I told you, he's the last one to sleep, the first one to wake up. We know.
Okay. Now, we have talked extensively about SHA. You have explained that. And now the journalists are also asking, can we uplift KBC at the expense of other tax-paying private entities?
You know.
They're asking on the fourth estate here, and I have to ask that question.
Yes, I know. You also have a media, you are a media person.
Yes.
I'm not doing it at the expense of we are not talking about taxes.
Yeah, taxation.
Last month, I had privilege to represent the government on some matters in London.
Yes.
And I toured BBC. You know what? These institutions have a Kenyan identity. It's like your culture,
Yes.
your value system. You cannot bring down BBC. You can allow Sky to do what it wants, and they will continue doing that. But what represents the British people as an identity
It's BBC.
is BBC.
Yeah, sure.
When you go to America, the identity of the United States of America is Voice of America. But you have CNN.
Yeah.
So if you form a habit of privatizing life in a nation like ours, killing national institutions, even the private people have. It's like saying, that was the same argument we were given, that let us get into school, let us also give capitation to private universities because they pay taxes. Let me tell you, we must invest heavily in maintaining national. When everything else fails, we have to turn to national institutions as our source of identity. When visitors come here and they realize Kenya doesn't have a national broadcaster, it has only private ones. It will be a private company. They come, there is no poster. They come, there is no national hospital like Kenyatta. That is the definition of a failed state. Even those who are working in the private media houses passed through KBC and the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. Yeah. However much I go out, Robert, I have been a Fulbright scholar. I was a Fulbright scholar in Boston. But my primary school teacher remains the most important person to me. My nursery school teacher, the most important person. Every time, my nursery school teacher has not even, she's still alive. She used to, we used to learn in under a tree. And she's called Madam Gertrude. You know, when I think about my life, there is nobody who can be better than those people. You could cry and then they carry you like your mother. You get the point? So, I can't say that institution, and then the primary school I went to, the secondary school I went to Kisiang'Ani-Ps. You see me, I keep going to my schools.
Yeah.
I learned at Kenyatta University and Nairobi. And you know how passionate I think about them. So if we leave national institutions that made us what we are, made our parents what we are, in the name of private capital, as a country we have no identity, we are dead. President Ruto does not want that to happen. He found when the country was dying, it was losing its identity.
Yeah.
And now we are bringing back the identity, which we badly need. Then
to make them competitive.
Yes.
They compete now, make them also competitive.
Yes.
So they can also float in the modern technological advancements.
Have you seen any?
Not to boost them, then just leave them there.
You see some of the debts that are owed to Posta, to Communication Authority of Kenya, to KBC are from private people. And they were not able to pay some of those debts just because they didn't want the KBC to succeed. So, Robert, Kenya has to make a decision. Do we kill the institutions that create an identity for us? If you know, I used to talk to my university students. I would give them first years. I'd give them, in fact, 30 years. When I used to teach some units, and then I ask them, write the spelling of NMT. Then some would do EN and then NE. And you know there is no vowel between N and M.
Yeah.
And I ask, when did you learn this? They say they learned in standard 5. So even our teachers give us an identity. When we make mistakes from our teachers, not even our parents. National institutions are what defines Kenya.
A country. Okay. Now, still on the issue, that the second last issue that I want to talk about, because I've received some feedback from comrades here. Tobias Lumbuku, student leader, Kibabi University, and also his colleagues from Nairobi University. They are talking about this issue. They were here, we discussed with them, and they want us to also talk about this issue about the new model, the new funding model. Because before I ask the question, look at this scenario. Here is a farmer who has a bright kid. And here is a professor who is a PS in the Kenya Kwanza government. Your kid maybe is not very sharp, so he went to a day school. The farmer, the child is very sharp, and he went to a national school. Then they come now to decide the funding model, whereby they look at the school that your kid went to, the Harambee school, then they put your kid under category 1, and then they go to the farmer whose child is sharp, and the farmer has no money, but because the child is at Kenya High, now they put that farmer in band 4 or 5, whereby he has to pay a lot of money. But you are capable, but because the kid is not capable academically, he has been put in band 1, whereby you only pay like 16,000 shillings. How fair is that?
You know what? Where are you getting this information?
No, it's practically there.
And you know what?
It's practically there, Professor.
There are two issues, Robert.
Yes.
Don't distort facts.
No.
There is the issue of data collection. There's the issue of execution of what should be done. The first thing to think about this funding model is to ask, what are we curing? Let me tell you, I've had my kids in university.
Yeah.
In fact, my last kid to be in university, the girl who is a lawyer, an advocate, she went to university. After qualifying to do law, she joined law school, but I deliberately refused to apply for help. I have paid for her fees. She finished and ended up in the Kenya School of Law, at the Kenya School of Law, to become an advocate. Again, I paid.
Because you are capable.
No, wait. That's the point I'm driving at, isn't it?
Yes.
But why are you not asking about a professor or a doctor or a big business person with money who, even with the money they have, under the old system, they still applied to get money to be sponsored? So you have to ask, what are we curing by looking for this information? Because getting information is one thing, then doing something about the information is another. This data has exposed people, the one we are asking for. People who are able to pay for their kids, who have enough money, were the beneficiaries of the old system. They were accessing government funds, and the children from poor families were not. And it's common, you know, somebody used to come to you to say, mimi nimepata pesa ya help. Lakini wewe unasema na huyu mtu anauliza help, na wewe na jirani, hata wewe pengine wewe mtoto wako ule wa university pengine ulitumia pesa ya help. Sisemi ulitumia, but you know, there are people in your category who benefit from government funding. But Robert, you cannot take your kid for funding because some of your neighbors are in more dire need than yourself.
Yeah, I know.
So that is the cure that the system is, by looking for that data. But then there is a system also after you have gotten that data where you can discuss now, after you have gotten that data, and there is now what you call the needs assessment. It's a very complicated system that the young men didn't tell you about. Needs assessment is this. There are people who need, when you assess their family, you might find that somebody has some money, but more children in school can't afford. So if that could be just a recipe for the kid not even to go to school. So you do that assessment. But there are others who don't even have any other children, but their situation in their home is horrible. So they also need assistance. So when you do the needs assessment, you do the banding. It's not even about having money, but it's also about the fact that even if you have some money, is that enough to look after the children who are already in school you are looking after, even with money or not? So where do we categorize you? Which needs do you have? Then there are others who have children, very good children, who have passed exams, but the needs assessment says that even with that just one child, they can't pay for it. So what you need to do is to sit down and say, there is the collection of data which will be processed. And then there is also the execution now. How do we do the funding? So you don't start with funding. You start with needs assessment and the categorization. So now after they have told you that, Robert, what is kids, when they raised questions like, because it is a tool thing, it is an ICT tool, which is going to help us to get the right funding. When they complain to the president that the tool does not reflect the reality,
True.
what the president ordered is that now, let's go back and look at the tool. And which is being looked at by that.
They are looking at the tool.
Two committees. The president even gazetted the two committees. They have set up Kina Khaemba, Ongete are on that rule. They have said, in fact, the president made in a town hall, some of the student leaders joined the president in Mombasa, and the president completely agreed with them. He said, if the tool is not doing very well, and it is not giving the correct impression, let us revise the tool. And now people are going to give those, the hearings have started, the tool will improve. It's like this, when we are seated here. When we get to an ICT situation, the tool is it's as good as the users. If the tool is not serving us, we revise the tool. And that's what is going to happen. And so the student leaders from Kibabi know that those two committees have been put up to review the education system and the funding system at the university, and they have been encouraged to give their input.
Yes.
We have just started a few months ago, so nobody is drastically hurt. The tool will be improved. And in terms of assessing who needs funding, we shall come up with a solution. The problem is that when you start something new, even the vehicle you are driving, look at the prototype that started in Japan. It is not as effective as the one you are having. But we shall achieve a more perfect situation as we move forward. So instead of crying about what has happened, the government has not forced that system to work. It is saying, if there are better suggestions to improve the tool, let us improve it and then gear funding to the right people. So since the president has already set up that tool, let us not preempt it. Let us wait. The teams have been gazetted. And the teams have been gazetted, and once they come out with a tool, which I hope will embrace the input, the new concerns of the students, a solution will be found.
As the tool is being looked into, the students are telling me here, the universities are still reminding them about fees. What's happening, because they are supposed to pay, they have been given a reminder on 18th and then 22nd they have to clear. Because the tool is being looked into, maybe the government, can it stop the universities from forcing students to complete the same fees under the old arrangement?
I want to know whether it's Kibabi University which is forcing the students to pay, or they're just making a blanket to do. Let them, I encourage the students.
Yeah.
If there is any vice chancellor or a university administration that are doing things which are not in tandem with what the government has instructed, the government will take action. So let them not talk about universities.
You can officially tell universities that...
Yes, they must follow what the Minister of Education is saying.
Yeah.
If they are not getting the clarification from PS Inyangala, Beatrice Inyangala, they'll get the clarification from our Minister, Ogamba, and they will get the correct information. But all of us PS know what is happening. So straight away, if they told me it is Kibabi which is doing that, they should just mention that it's Kibabi which is doing that, and I will, on Monday, in a few days, in fact, tonight, I'll call Beatrice and ask, are these your instructions?
Yes.
That's the point.
Because
I
even
don't want people to do things
even
and say,
me, I have a reminder from Kenyatta University.
yes, we need to
have to
know
pay.
whether they are implementing. The Minister of Education is in charge. It is doing a good job. They are implementing the directives of the president. So if anything is happening, which will deny our students education that the government has not approved, the students have a duty to look for government officials. There are education officers here, and I ask them everywhere to report to the authorities quickly if there is anything that is happening that does not run in tandem with what the president has directed.
Yes.
Anything that does not lie in tandem with what the president is doing, and the president has communicated.
That we get it for our news team. That one, Professor has put it very clear, very loud and clear. And thank you very much, Edukenzo Shiyenga. Edukenzo Shiyenga from, we say, I'm getting you loud. Professor, for coming clean over many issues that we have been thinking about. Okay, Edukenzo Shiyenga. Asante sana. Kenya ina makabila mengi. We have community. And you have been coming clearly about a particular issue about Kenya has regions. Do you think Kenya has regions that have leaders that somebody can say, this one is for this region, so if I want to maybe do this or access the president, I have to use this and this person? Do we have kingpins?
Robert, why did you not comment about my issues? You know I have been playing football.
You have been playing football, no, and
yes.
You have been planting
and
trees.
And it has rained. So you ambushed me.
Yes.
Now you're ambushing me with another one.
Yes.
Kenya is divided into regions for administrative purposes.
Okay.
But those regions are not supposed to. We all receive IDs, passports as Kenyans. So, this story is about people, that is old-fashioned politics. And we killed it many years ago. Kenya elects one president. It doesn't elect regional presidents. Ours is a presidential system where we elect one president at a time with limited term limits. So, this thing about regional leaders, and I hear it a lot.
Murima.
I don't want to talk about anybody, but I'm talking about the regional leaders. You hear these things sometimes in newspapers. I hear about them.
Yes.
They are a figment of some people's imagination. That is no place in Kenya. Even you, Robert, where you sit here, if you want to be the president of Kenya, get to Vanga. Ask for the people of Vanga to support you. Otherwise, sanduku yako itakuwa empty. Enda Lodwa. Uliza watu wa Lodwa hapo Turkana wakupigie kura.
Enda Garissa.
Enda Wajia. Unasikia? Enda Migori. Enda Kilgoris. Enda Nyeri. You can never win to people's president without bringing everybody on board. He said his presidency will end tribalism. He works with everybody. And that's why he comes here, he has built a good state house here. When he's in Bungoma, he's in Kakamega, he loves these people. And you know how he loves these people? When he goes to Mombasa, it's the same story. And you'll see him during Mashujaa. Ask me any leader who will pull crowds like the president is going to pull crowds in Kwale. The president goes to Lamu, it's the same story. So this story is about regions. Dead talk, it takes you nowhere. We are one united country under President Ruto. We know that when he finishes his terms, again, legitimacy because it is the ballot.
That decides.
Once we make one a president, we rally behind him. That's why I've told you, Robert. And you keep asking me this question. I think it's mischievous. Kenya does not have kingpins.
Okay.
This is an imagination of people maybe playing some draft in a small hotel and then say, declaring themselves. It's like your child declaring that he is father. The president of Kenya is one. I've told you, all of us who have been ni watu wake wa mkono.
Watu wa mkono.
He tells us to do. We do not set up any alternative centers of power. Mimi nilikuja president. We don't do things on our own. We do things that the president has approved and has allowed us to do. Where did people tell you they are a tribal kingpins or regional kingpins? Go and ask them. Because I don't believe in that and I know it is not true. It doesn't exist. The president is not a regional leader, and he is our boss. We follow him. Okay. So go and ask those people to tell you. Maybe they have a different story which can persuade us. But now I'm not persuaded. So there is no. So the upper region ya Western ni Rais Ruto. Huko Nyanza mkubwa wetu Rais Ruto. Huko Coast mkubwa wetu ni Rais Ruto. Northern Kenya na ako na watu.
Ndio.
Hapo Nairobi mkubwa wetu ni Rais Ruto. Huko Central Kenya mkubwa wetu ni Rais Ruto. Sasa right time yake kutembelea watu wake wote. He is the symbol of unity. Once we rally behind the president, those issues of people playing draft and imagining they are also like the president haitakuwa. Our president is one. Okay. The leader of Kenya, the commander-in-chief is William Ruto. So don't bring those stories of region. Maybe you want to declare yourself a regional leader, but they are not regional leaders.
I don't have the capacity.
No, don't. And don't try that. It's a very dangerous game.
Dangerous.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Emmanuel Talam. You say very good articulative points about SHA, about the funding model, Professor Kongs. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Talam, ukiwa kwa communication team ya Rais. Na vile vile Munyori Buku, ulipata cheo hiyo jana, umesema nimefuata mahojiano hadi mwisho. Thank you very much, Munyori Buku, you are my bosses there. Alafu tuende Afrika, namalizia na swala ambalo umeliongelea, lakini ningependa uchukue dakika 2, sababu naambiwa muda unayoyoma kufika kwa news. Tuende Afrika, anasema, good work Professor Kisiang'ani. But Prof, why not build an ICT hub in Bungoma town? It can help employ 10,000 people directly and indirectly. Na anaendelea, we want an ICT hub in Bungoma town, Prof Kisiang'ani, to promote tourism, theater and drama, movie production, etc. Unaweza chukua dakika 2, umeshaongelea lakini you can particularly talk about that.
Everybody in Kenya needs an ICT hub. There are 3 categories of ICT hubs. There's the ordinary, there's the intermediate one and the excellent one. So tell that person who lives in Bungoma that there is already an ICT hub I've directed. You know, the president directed me.
Yes.
Then I directed Walde wanafanya kazi na mimi. Around Madaraka Day, the president wanted to open an ICT hub at the poster house.
Yes.
You know where it is? Ukiangalia huku chini, kuna renovations.
Yeah.
I want you to visit it.
I will go there on Monday.
I'm waiting to come and open that with the president.
Okay.
The president wanted to open that around Madaraka, but we were not ready.
Now we are going to have the president again.
Yes. Okay. He will open that. He wanted to open it personally. I want you to go and check. I came there and I checked some work was shoddy, and I stopped it.
There is still some shoddy work.
Yes, and maybe if we are around here, I will check. So we are using postal corporation for as centers of excellence, digital hubs, to put up using the postal infrastructure. You know, we would probably get around 38 county headquarters postal units which we will use. Okay. So Bungoma is one of them, and I'll be supervising that work very shortly. I've directed the Postmaster General to come. Okay. He will come and check the level of the work. The people who are building that, the postal people have, Konza is also involved because
Okay.
it will supply, Konza Technopolis will supply the computers.
Okay.
There are other centers which are going to be opened as centers of excellency, and they are all across the 47 counties. Where we do not have a good postal unit, because some of them are empty,
Yeah.
we will build. But where we have them, there will be the new hubs for excellence.
for excellency.
So the Bungoma person shouldn't worry about it, and we are doing it elsewhere.
I will go there on Monday
and
and
go and
check
check
the
and
progress.
see the progress.
Yeah.
We are late by a few months,
Okay.
but we shall do it. But in the villages where we have good postal units also,
Yeah.
areas like Kimilili and other places, we have also asked the members of parliament to contribute at least 3% of the CDF fund,
Yeah.
to support the
Okay.
the digital hubs in every ward. We have 1,450 wards across the country, and every ward is going to have a digital hub.
Oh,
and it is already, we have agreed with the county governments. If you ask Governor Lusaka here, he will tell you about that. They support us, but government is doing the centers of excellence. They are well designed, and we shall put in the cameras, CCTV cameras, and many other things to secure the place with the grills and make sure they are painted very well. And that's what we will do. So they don't have to worry. It is a program which is running around the whole country. And I'm not a PS for Bungoma. I'm a PS for the whole country. So I care about what's happening at Isiolo. We have a very good structure there.
Yeah.
And we want also to put there another one, center of excellence for that. So overall, we are on track, and they shouldn't worry. The questions they are asking are good, and we are here as government, of course, to answer those questions.
Yeah.
And we shall do very well. So when those digital hubs are done, then they learn. They will be contributing to. First, we have those devices around one central position, but that's where we shall teach digital skilling, and through that we can also teach kids on how to do creative things. So we can teach them. But we have a duty also. You remember, there are also development partners who are participating, just like the ones who are doing Kenya Power. A lot of the money that the president got for accelerating electricity supply has come to Bungoma.
Yes.
He has given us a lot of resources. So even in digital terms, World Bank is involved. Remember, the president made it very clear, and I said, always listen to the president very carefully, and especially for you in the media, before you distort anything. The president said that the enterprise of digitizing Kenya cannot be made by the government alone. We don't have the resources. Government is doing 52%. The private sector is doing 48%.
Okay.
So we shall get more people to come in to support us, to put us, even village digital hubs, and they are supporting us. Even World Bank is doing that. But for us as government, we want to do the excellent ones. We want to work with county governments and MPs to do the ones in the sub-counties. I told you, give William Ruto another 2 years with what he's doing. When he will tell you he wants to go, you will not accept.
Okay, I'm just requesting Mercy on the production, on the programming, to give us 2 minutes so that Professor can complete. Now, the very, very last issue I want you to talk about, maybe you have a message. You have any message from President William Ruto for the people of Western Nyanza and the North Rift? Dakika mbili, labda upate kutupatia ujumbe kutoka kwa rais.
The president doesn't give 2 messages. He gives 1 message for the entire country. The message is that he has an agenda, and he's requesting everybody to rally behind him to support his agenda. This is the message for Rift Valley. This is the message for Coast, Northern Kenya, Central Kenya, the message, Nairobi, the message is the same. He has an agenda. He has those 5, 6 pillars I've mentioned and discussed at length.
Yeah.
He wants you to give him time to execute that agenda, because it is that agenda that made you vote for him. And he also wants you to resist any attempts to derail that agenda, because that agenda is what will change Kenya. If we don't implement that agenda, we are in trouble. We go back to support people who made our lives miserable, we must fight the Stockholm syndrome.
Wow. He's called the rabble rouser and you have heard him. Wa Kisiang'ani ambaye ni Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Broadcasting and Telecommunications, and he has put it the way it is. You have heard him talk about SHA, transition from NHIF. He has talked about the new university funding model. He has talked about the digital hubs, ICT hubs. He has talked about rolling out connectivity of internet all over the country. He has talked about sports. He has talked about the environment. He has talked about climate change. He has talked about almost everything that can come from a professor who is in charge of ICT and broadcasting in any country. I think you are very happy to have heard him, na vile vile mmesikia mkiwa wanafunzi, mmesikia la kufanya, mmeambiwa mambo ya karo, mmeambiwa vizuri sana mahali pa kwenda iwapo mnaambiwa maneno mengine. Maana yake swala hilo linazidi kushughulikiwa na kamati maalum ambayo rais alipata kubuni. Na kwa niaba ya wote ambao tumeshirikiana nao hapa katika kuandaa matangazo haya moja kwa moja, naona hapo Emmanuel Juma kwenye news, naona hapo Faith Nyongesa akiwa hapo, naona Felix Wanjala, naona mkubwa wa cameraman hapa ambaye ni Florence Simiyu, hapo mwanadada Celestine Naema Tinina. Asante sana kwa kazi nzuri sana kuhakikisha kwamba kila kitu iko sawa, sauti na everything iko sawa. Halafu kwenye programming desk hapo Masi Shikuku na vile vile Elvin Situma, mhariri mkuu akiwa ni Caroline Mugure, na wote watazamaji wote ambao create your time to just watch us. I say thank you very much. Tutamwalika tena wakati wa December hivi akuje tena afanye rabble rousing nyingine. Profesa, asante sana.
Nashukuru sana.
Na Mungu azidi kukubariki ukiendelea na kazi ya kujenga taifa.
Ya kufanyia kazi rais.
Yeye ni mtu wa mkono wa Rais William Ruto. Naam, kwa niaba ya wote ambao nimewataja wako na sisi siku mzima, nasema asante sana kwa kujitolea hivyo, na kesho huenda manake kuna kitu iko njiani, na hiyo ni pesa. Tutawaambia katika taarifa zetu za habari ikisha wasili hapo Kimalewa. Basi kwa niaba yote ambayo nimetaja, Profesa, asante sana, na uwe na safari njema wakati ambapo unazidi kuzunguka katika kaunti yetu na eneo la Magharibi.
Asante sana.
Tunashukuru sana. Asanteni sana, na moja kwa moja hadi broadcasting Masi and Elvin tuzidi kuendelea na matangazo yetu mengine.